Most people consider sleep to be a passive state, a time when the body and brain simply shut down. But neuroscience has shown that sleep is anything but passive. In fact, it's one of the most dynamic, metabolically active states your body experiences in a 24-hour cycle. During deep sleep, especially stages of slow wave sleep, also known as NE3 sleep, the body goes into full-scale repair and recovery mode. Hormones like growth hormone and testosterone are released in high concentrations, cellular repair mechanisms are activated, and muscle tissue begins the complex process of rebuilding. This is the phase where muscle protein synthesis, the process by which the body builds new muscle tissue, can be maximized if the right building blocks are available. What's crucial to understand is that the recovery and growth of muscle tissue don't primarily happen during your workouts. That stress signals the need for adaptation, but it's during sleep that the actual rebuilding takes place. This rebuilding depends heavily on amino acids, specifically essential amino acids like leucine, isoleucine, and valine, which the body cannot produce on its own and must obtain from dietary sources. If these amino acids are circulating in the bloodstream during sleep, your body has the raw materials it needs to carry out the synthesis of new muscle tissue. But if they're absent or depleted, especially after fasting through the night, the body may shift toward breaking down muscle for amino acids instead of building it. This makes the window before sleep a powerful opportunity, one that many people overlook. Most people think about pre-workout nutrition or what they eat during the day, but what you consume in the hour before bed can profoundly influence your recovery outcomes. Research from sports physiology and neuroscience has shown that ingestion of slow-digesting proteins such as casein in the pre-sleep period results in a steady, prolonged release of amino acids into the bloodstream. This slow drip of nutrients matches the long duration of sleep and aligns perfectly with the body's nocturnal repair rhythm. Sleep also coincides with the peak secretion of anabolic hormones, such as growth hormone and insulin, like growth factor 1 IGF-1, which are both vital for muscle regeneration. These hormones are most active during the first few cycles of deep sleep. If amino acids are present during this hormonal surge, the muscle building machinery is switched on in a synchronized and effective manner. Without those nutrients, the anabolic signal may go unanswered. In addition to muscle repair, sleep itself affects how your body can use protein. Poor quality or insufficient sleep has been linked to decreased muscle protein synthesis, higher levels of cortisol, catabolic hormone that promotes muscle breakdown, and reduced insulin sensitivity, all of which impair muscle maintenance. But when you sleep deeply and for a full 79 hours, your body becomes a highly efficient machine for recovery, provided it has the fuel to do so. That's why timing and nutrient composition matter so much. From a neurological standpoint, the central nervous system also undergoes repair and detoxification during sleep, which is essential for motor function and muscle recruitment during training the next day. The glymphatic system, responsible for clearing waste from the brain, becomes active during sleep. This reduces inflammation and improves neural communication, both of which play roles in performance and muscle coordination. Ultimately, sleep is not just rest, it's restoration. And from a muscle preservation standpoint, it's the single most important phase of your 24-hour cycle. Nutrition before bed can determine whether your body uses this window to rebuild and grow or to shrink and break down. It's a choice you make not with effort or intention, but with intention by simply feeding your body what it needs before you close your eyes. When the body goes to sleep without sufficient nutritional support, especially after physical activity, it can quietly slip into a state of catabolism, meaning it starts to break down muscle tissue for energy and essential amino acids. This happens more often than people realize, particularly in those who train regularly but neglect to eat appropriately before bed. The body's priority during sleep is survival and repair. And if the bloodstream is lacking the necessary nutrients, it pulls those resources from internal reserves, most notably lean muscle mass during prolonged periods of fasting, such as the 79 hours of overnight sleep. The body doesn't simply remain inactive. It continues to carry out vital functions like respiration, tissue repair, memory consolidation, and hormone regulation. All of these processes require energy and specific substrates like amino acids. If these substrates are not available from recent dietary intake, the body turns to skeletal muscle, breaking down its own proteins into amino acids that can be used to support metabolic and immune function, glucose regulation, and neurotransmitter synthesis. This breakdown of muscle tissue for systemic needs is precisely what undermines muscle maintenance and growth, especially in individuals who are already in a caloric deficit or undergoing intense training. Cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, naturally rises in the early morning hours to help promote wakefulness. While cortisol has important physiological roles, it's also catabolic in nature. That means it facilitates the breakdown of muscle to free up amino acids and glucose for energy. If you go to bed on an empty stomach or without adequate protein intake via reading, you're not just unprepared to build muscle. You may be setting yourself up to lose it. The lack of dietary amino acids combined with the hormonal shift toward catabolism creates a perfect environment for muscle degradation. One of the most overlooked aspects of this process is that muscle loss isn't immediately visible. It happens slowly, subtly, over weeks and months. People often notice that they're not progressing in strength or that their physique appears flatter despite consistent workouts. In reality, they may be experiencing a gradual erosion of muscle due to repeated nightly muscle protein breakdown that exceeds synthesis. This is especially true as we age. From our 30s onward, the body's ability to maintain muscle declines due to hormonal changes, and sleep becomes an even more critical period to protect against atrophy. Research in exercise physiology and metabolism consistently shows that muscle protein turnover, the balance between synthesis and breakdown, is sensitive to nutrient timing. Eating nothing or eating poorly before sleep shifts this balance toward breakdown. Conversely, targeted pre-sleep nutrition, especially with slow-digesting proteins like casein, can create a positive net protein balance overnight, tipping the scale back in favor of preservation and growth. This is not just about performance. Even for non-athletes, maintaining lean muscle mass is associated with better metabolic health, insulin sensitivity, bone density, and even reduced risk of chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. There's also a neurological dimension to this. When amino acid levels are insufficient, the brain may alter its signaling patterns in ways that affect appetite regulation, mood, and recovery. Neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine are synthesized from amino acids. A chronic lack of available amino acids can therefore impair not just muscle recovery, but also cognitive performance, motivation, and sleep quality itself. This creates a vicious cycle. Poor nutrition leads to poor sleep, which impairs recovery, which leads to further muscle loss and decreased performance. Ultimately, failing to eat the right foods before bed doesn't just result in missed opportunities for muscle growth, it actively contributes to muscle loss. And because this process happens silently and progressively, most people don't realize what's happening until it's already had an impact. By understanding this, you can take control of your recovery window and prevent unnecessary muscle degradation that occurs while you sleep. One of the most effective strategies to prevent muscle loss during sleep is consuming slow digesting protein before bed. This isn't just a fitness trend, it's grounded in research on nutrient metabolism and muscle protein synthesis. Unlike fast digesting proteins, which spike amino acid levels quickly and then decline within a couple of hours, slow digesting proteins release amino acids steadily over a prolonged period. This is precisely what the body needs during sleep, which is essentially an extended fast lasting anywhere from 7 to 9 hours. Without this continuous supply of amino acids, the body may turn to muscle tissue for fuel and repair demands, especially if it's already in a calorie deficit or has recently undergone strenuous physical activity. Casein protein, found naturally in dairy products like Greek yogurt and cottage cheese, is a prime example of a slow digesting protein. It coagulates in the stomach, forming a gel-like substance that slows gastric emptying and ensures a gradual release of amino acids into the bloodstream over 6 to 8 hours. This makes it perfectly suited for the overnight period when your body is in a fasting state, but still requires nutrients for repair, especially if your goal is to preserve or build lean muscle mass. When casein or another slow digesting protein is consumed before bed, the steady release of amino acids into circulation helps maintain a positive net protein balance. That means protein synthesis, the building of new muscle tissue, can continue throughout the night without being overshadowed by protein breakdown. Studies have shown that individuals who consume 30 to 40 grams of casein protein before sleep experience higher rates of overnight muscle protein synthesis compared to those who go to bed without protein intake or consume only fast, digesting sources earlier in the day. This approach becomes especially valuable for people who train in the late afternoon or evening. Exercise creates a strong anabolic signal, but that signal needs fuel, amino acids, to translate into muscle repair and growth. If a person trains at 7 p.m., eats dinner by 8 p.m., and then sleeps at 11 p.m., the anabolic window may not be fully supported unless there's a protein-rich intake close to bedtime. The casein effectively bridges the gap by providing the nutrients the body needs to take advantage of that post-exercise anabolic window while you sleep. Furthermore, casein isn't the only option. Protein blends that combine fast and slow digesting proteins can also be effective. Some people use a mixture of whey and casein or include whole food sources such as eggs and nuts along with dairy. What matters most is the sustained release of amino acids and the inclusion of leucine, an amino acid crucial for triggering muscle protein synthesis. The body needs a steady leucine supply to activate the mTOR pathway, which acts as the biochemical switch for building new muscle tissue. It's important to note that this strategy doesn't only apply to athletes or bodybuilders. Older adults, for example, are particularly vulnerable to sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass, and can benefit tremendously from pre-sleep protein intake. As we age, the muscle sensitivity to amino acids declines, so delivering a sustained, nighttime supply of those nutrients becomes even more critical for maintaining strength, mobility, and metabolic health. Pre-sleep protein intake also has secondary benefits. For one, it helps with satiety and may prevent nighttime cravings or late-night snacking, which can derail dietary discipline. Additionally, it stabilizes blood glucose levels overnight, reducing the likelihood of cortisol spikes or nighttime awakenings due to low blood sugar. This contributes to better overall sleep quality, which further supports muscle recovery and hormone regulation. In summary, slow digesting protein before bed is a simple, science-backed tool for preserving and growing muscle mass. It works with your body's natural rhythms, providing a consistent flow of nutrients during the hours when you're doing the most important work of recovery without even being awake. Leucine is one of the most critical amino acids when it comes to stimulating muscle protein synthesis. It is categorized as a branched-chain amino acid BCAA along with isoleucine and valine, but among the three, leucine stands out because of its direct role in activating the mTOR's mechanistic target of rapamycin pathway. This signaling pathway is the central regulator of cell growth, including the growth of muscle tissue. Without sufficient leucine, even if other amino acids are present, the body may not fully initiate the muscle building process. That makes leucine not just helpful, but essential, especially during the night when the body is in a state of repair and regeneration. The way leucine works is by acting like a molecular switch. When enough leucine enters the bloodstream and reaches muscle cells, it binds to specific sensors that trigger mTOR, which then activates the translation of muscle proteins. This cascade is what turns the presence of protein into actual muscle growth. It's not just about eating protein, it's about whether that protein contains a sufficient amount of leucine to turn on the machinery responsible for building new tissue. Research indicates that an effective dose of leucine for this purpose is around 2 to 3 grams per serving, which can usually be found in about 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein. Not all proteins are equal in leucine content. For example, whey protein has a high concentration of leucine, which is why it's often recommended post-workout. However, for nighttime consumption, a slow digesting protein like casein is preferred for its sustained amino acid release, and it still contains a respectable amount of leucine. Foods like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, and certain protein blends can provide both the slow digesting quality and the necessary leucine dose when consumed in the right quantity. Ensuring this balance is key for maintaining an anabolic or muscle building environment throughout the night. Leucine's impact extends beyond just turning on protein synthesis. It also plays a role in reducing muscle protein breakdown. While the presence of insulin and other hormones contributes to this effect, leucine independently suppresses proteolytic pathways. the biological mechanisms that degrade muscle proteins. This dual role makes it uniquely effective at shifting the body into a net positive protein balance. That means more synthesis and less breakdown, which is the ideal scenario for anyone looking to build or maintain lean muscle mass. Another important aspect of leucine is its utility for older adults and individuals undergoing recovery from injury or illness. As the body ages, it becomes less sensitive to anabolic stimuli, a condition referred to as anabolic resistance. This means that older individuals require a higher threshold of leucine to achieve the same level of muscle protein synthesis as a younger person. For them, reaching that 2 to 3 gram target becomes even more crucial, and the timing, such as before bed, can make a significant difference in preserving mobility, strength, and metabolic health. The timing of leucine intake also matters. Consuming leucine-rich protein in the hour before sleep capitalizes on the body's natural nighttime hormonal profile, which includes elevated levels of growth hormone and testosterone. These hormones support tissue repair, and when combined with leucine-induced mTOR activation, they create a potent environment for muscle rebuilding. If leucine is absent during this window, the body may fail to fully utilize these hormonal advantages, missing an opportunity to enhance recovery. From a nutritional strategy perspective, targeting leucine intake is one of the most precise and effective methods for maximizing muscle retention and growth. It allows individuals to go beyond general protein recommendations and instead focus on what actually drives the biological process of muscle synthesis. This is especially powerful when applied to the nighttime recovery window, where muscle building activity happens silently and efficiently if the right molecular signals, like leucine, are present to guide it. A common misconception in nutrition is that eating before bed, especially protein, will hinder fat loss or lead to fat gain. This belief has caused many people to avoid nighttime meals altogether, thinking they're protecting their physique or metabolism. However, modern research in metabolic science and exercise physiology clearly shows that consuming protein before sleep, particularly slow digesting types like casein, does not impair fat oxidation during the night. In fact, it may enhance next day metabolism, improve body composition, and support better overall health outcomes. To understand why this is the case, it's essential to break down how the body processes nutrients overnight. During sleep, especially in the early phases, your body enters a fasted state. Energy expenditure slows, and the body begins relying more heavily on fat stores for fuel. Contrary to popular belief, consuming a moderate amount of protein before bed does not significantly spike insulin levels or interrupt fat burning. Instead, it supports muscle maintenance and repair, while fat continues to be utilized as a primary energy source throughout the night. In other words, protein doesn't turn off fat burning. It helps preserve lean tissue, which is critical for sustaining a high metabolic rate. Muscle tissue is metabolically active. It requires energy even at rest, meaning the more lean muscle you have, the higher your resting energy expenditure, and weak protein intake before bed helps to prevent the overnight muscle breakdown that naturally occurs during fasting. This not only protects your muscle mass, but also supports your long-term fat loss goals. Preserving muscle while in a calorie deficit is essential because losing muscle can significantly reduce your basal metabolic rate, making it harder to lose fat and easier to regain weight. Moreover, studies have shown that individuals who consume protein before bed experience increased morning energy expenditure. One controlled trial found that participants who consumed 3 to 40 grams of casein protein before sleep had a higher RE upon waking compared to those who didn't consume anything. The thermic effect of protein, meaning the energy required to digest, absorb, and metabolize it, also plays a role. Protein is the most metabolically demanding macronutrient, and its digestion increases overall calorie expenditure even during rest. In addition to metabolic benefits, pre-sleep protein can improve sleep quality, which indirectly supports fat loss. High-quality sleep is strongly associated with better hunger hormone regulation, particularly the balance between ghrelin and leptin. Poor sleep disrupts this balance, often leading to increased hunger, cravings for high-calorie foods, and impaired insulin sensitivity, all of which can derail fat loss efforts. Protein intake before bed, especially when paired with foods that contain tryptophan or magnesium, may support deeper, more restorative sleep by stabilizing blood sugar and promoting neurotransmitter synthesis. This effect contributes to a more regulated appetite and better energy levels the following day. It's also important to consider the behavioral advantages of this approach. For many people, the late window is when discipline fades and unhealthy snacking habits emerge. A protein-rich meal or shake before bed can increase satiety, reduce cravings, and help prevent impulsive decisions that lead to excess calorie intake. Rather than avoiding food and risking nighttime hunger or binge eating episodes, preemptively consuming a slow-digesting protein helps maintain nutritional control and consistency. From a body composition standpoint, the goal isn't just to lose weight, it's to lose fat while maintaining or even increasing lean mass. Protein intake before bed supports this dual objective by fueling muscle recovery and protecting the body from entering a catabolic state while still allowing fat to be used for energy throughout the night. This strategy maximizes your body's efficiency during sleep, harnessing it not just for rest, but for active recovery and metabolic support. Ultimately, the idea that nighttime protein hinders fat loss is a myth that doesn't hold up under scientific scrutiny. When consumed in the right quantity and form, protein before bed is not only safe, it's one of the most effective tools for preserving muscle, supporting metabolism, and achieving sustainable fat loss. Implementing a consistent nighttime nutrition protocol is one of the most strategic and science-backed ways to optimize recovery, muscle maintenance, and overall body composition. The protocol is simple but powerful. Consume a slow-digesting, leucine-rich protein source approximately 30 to 60 minutes before going to bed. This timing aligns with your body's circadian rhythm and the hormonal profile that supports tissue repair and regeneration during sleep. The slow-digesting nature of the protein ensures a steady release of amino acids throughout the night, keeping your body in an anabolic or muscle-building state for as long as possible. The optimal amount of protein for this protocol is generally between 30 and 40 grams. This range has been shown in multiple studies to provide enough amino acids, especially the critical 2 to 3 grams of leucine, to effectively stimulate muscle protein synthesis and suppress muscle protein breakdown. Leucine acts as the trigger for the mTOR pathway, the biological mechanism that initiates the creation of new muscle proteins. Without reaching this threshold, the body may lack the necessary signal to begin building muscle, even if other nutrients are present. That's why quantity and quality of protein are both important factors to consider. Food selection also matters. Casein protein is the gold standard for pre-sleep consumption because of its slow digestion rate. It forms a gel-like structure in the stomach, releasing amino acids gradually into the bloodstream over 6 to 8 hours. This extended release mirrors the duration of a typical sleep cycle and ensures your muscles have a continuous supply of the raw materials they need to rebuild and grow. Natural food sources of casein include Greek yogurt and cottage cheese, which also offer additional nutrients like calcium and magnesium that support muscle function and relaxation. To further enhance the effects of this protocol, adding a small portion of healthy fats, such as a handful of almonds or walnuts, can provide several benefits. Fats slow gastric emptying, which helps prolong nutrient absorption even more. They also contain magnesium and tryptophan, 2 compounds known to support serotonin production and improve sleep quality. Better sleep not only supports deeper recovery, but also ensures the effectiveness of the hormonal processes involved in muscle building and fat regulation. Avoiding high sugar and high carb foods before bedtime is equally important. These types of spikes in blood glucose and insulin, followed by crashes that may disrupt sleep architecture. Sleep fragmentation or early nighttime awakenings can reduce the amount of slow-wave sleep you get, the phase most responsible for physical recovery and growth hormone release. Instead, the goal is to keep blood sugar stable and encourage a calm parasympathetic state that promotes restorative sleep. The right protein and fat combination helps accomplish this. This nighttime routine becomes even more important for individuals who train in the late afternoon or evening. Exercise leaves the muscles primed for repair and growth, and nutrient delivery during the hours following a workout is critical. If the body doesn't receive enough amino acids during this time, it may not fully capitalize on the anabolic window created by the workout. A pre-sleep protein meal acts as a second opportunity to support recovery, ensuring your training doesn't go to waste. Adopting this protocol doesn't require a complete dietary overhaul. It's a small, manageable change, just one well-structured meal added to your nightly routine. Yet the physiological impact it has on performance, metabolism, and long-term body composition is significant. Over time, consistently supplying your body with the nutrients it needs during sleep can lead to noticeable improvements in muscle mass, strength, and overall energy levels. By respecting your body's nighttime needs, you shift your recovery from passive to intentional, making sleep a powerful ally in your health and fitness goals.